I am incredibly excited to dive into this with you, because today we are talking all about visibility. We live in a world that's basically governed by massive, crowded, and highly automated systems. Whether we're talking about millions of digital files sitting in a government database, or billions of videos being uploaded to a platform, trying to get noticed can honestly feel a bit like throwing a pebble into the ocean. But what if getting noticed wasn't just random? What if there was a very specific structural way to make absolutely sure you are seen?
So, that brings us to the fundamental question we're tackling today. How do you actually stand out and get selected in a crowded system? Because whether you're a professional trying to catch the eye of a government selection algorithm or a digital creator trying to capture a massive global audience, success doesn't just boil down to luck. No way. It comes down to one singular concept, and that is optimization.
All right, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to start with cracking the selection code, then move into Canada's fast-track PR pathway, look at the rural immigration shift, pivot over to winning the YouTube click, and finally wrap things up with data-driven success. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Cracking the selection code. We need to define the rulebook here.
I want you to think of optimization kind of like a giant funnel. Really, it's just the process of adapting your variables to perfectly align with the underlying rules of a selection algorithm, guaranteeing visibility. Governments, search engines, tech platforms, they all use very specific filtering rules to sort through literally mountains of data. If you don't fit the filter, well, you remain just another data point. But if you master these rules and adjust your variables, that's exactly how you go from being just a number in a database to actually being selected.
Moving on to Section 2. Canada's fast-track PR pathway. Let's look at the IRCC's TR2 PR initiative in action.
Okay, get a load of this number, 33,000. That is an enormous target number. It's the amount of temporary workers that Canada's IRCC plans to transition into permanent residents across 2026 and 2027. And here is the absolute kicker when it comes to the selection system. Eligible applicants don't even need to take any action or submit new forms. The IRCC is automatically processing cases that are already sitting inside its system. They are literally running a filter straight through their existing inventory.
And the system is moving fast. Between January 1st and February 28th of 2026 alone, the system already selected and approved around 3,600 workers. That's already 18% of their minimum 20,000 target for the entire year, knocked out in just 2 months. It really demonstrates the sheer, rapid momentum of automated selection when your file is properly aligned with the system's goals.
Now you're probably wondering, what exactly are they filtering for? Well, these are the specific priority tags the system wants. If you apply through programs like the Provincial Nominee, the Atlantic Immigration, or targeted pilots like the Rural Community, Francophone Community, Caregiver, or Agri-Food pilots, you're prioritized. Being in one of these in-demand workforce programs acts as your ultimate optimization tag in their database. You are literally feeding the algorithm exactly what it's hungry for.
To understand why a system searches for these specific tags, we have to zoom out and look at the overarching goal that's programming the algorithm. In this instance, the Canadian government has a long-term economic strategy to reduce the temporary resident population to below 5% of Canada's total population by 2027. So by converting eligible, already contributing workers into permanent residents without requiring a bunch of new applications, the system is perfectly designed to hit that macro-level policy target super efficiently.
All right, Section 3, the rural immigration shift and the geographical filters driving it. This is where it gets really interesting. It's a stark binary contrast. Files associated with Census Metropolitan Areas, so your large urban centers, are generally excluded from this fast-track priority. But on the flip side, smaller communities and rural regions are heavily prioritized. From a pure optimization standpoint, living and working outside major cities is the ultimate hack for getting selected by the specific government algorithm, simply because the government is actively filtering for rural economic reinforcement.
And the systemic shift doesn't even stop there. It's impacting employers, too. Canada is introducing easier hiring rules for rural employers, including bumping up the rural workforce caps from a 10% limit to a 15% limit. This is a very intentional adaptation of the rules to address severe localized labor shortages. The system is literally rewriting its own code, which kind of proves that sometimes the absolute best way to hack a database is to just move to a farm.
Which brings us to Section 4. Winning the YouTube click. Let's pivot away from government databases and talk about mastering digital algorithms.
Listen to this wild stat straight from YouTube Help. 90%. Actually, let that sink in. 9 out of 10 of the best performing videos have custom thumbnails.
This instantly validates our core thesis for today. Visual optimization on a digital platform is the exact same concept as policy optimization in a government database. Customizing your variables, which in this case is the very first visual a viewer sees, is exactly what guarantees you get selected from an endless sea of content. It literally guarantees the click. Just like Canada targets specific worker profiles based on regional needs, creators absolutely have to target specific viewer profiles using highly specific visual triggers. If your video is aimed at your core subscribers, the algorithm rewards thumbnails that highlight familiar features, like, say, a reoccurring friend on the channel. But if you're targeting casual viewers who don't know you, you need universally relatable actions and super clear emotions, like a shocked face. You have to feed the system the correct variable for the correct target audience. So what are the literal rules of this visual system? First off, applying the rule of thirds creates mathematically interesting compositions. Second, text must be large and readable. You gotta remember, these thumbnails shrink way down on mobile screens. And third, avoid overly complex designs. While dynamic color definitely works, simplicity and large, clear imagery absolutely rule across devices. Too much visual noise just equals a failed optimization.
But hey, we cannot forget the text. Your titles are crucial variables. You really have to choose between a searchable title, which is clear and sets specific expectations for viewers looking for a certain topic, or an intriguing title, which relies on broad appeal to spark curiosity. To best feed the algorithm either way, titles must be succinct, putting the most important words right at the front, and a quick tip, use all caps and emojis very carefully. Use them to emphasize true emotion, not just to shout at the algorithm.
Section 5. Data-driven success. Let's talk about how you actually measure this optimization.
Okay, this breakdown right here, it's literally the ultimate cheat sheet. It shows exactly how to prove your optimization worked using YouTube Analytics. If you targeted general viewers, you need to look at your click-through rate, or CTR, on the home and suggested screens where impressions are really high, specifically within the first 24 hours. If you targeted subscribers, you check the CTR in the subscriptions feed in that exact same initial 24-hour window. This cold, hard data directly tells you if your variables effectively match the algorithm's filtering rules.
So, bringing this all full circle, if there's one thing you take away from this explainer, it's that success relies on perfectly aligning your presentation with a system's filtering criteria. Success is not random, guys. Whether it's a Canadian permanent resident approval or a viral YouTube click, success is simply an aligned response to a system's explicit needs. I'm going to leave you with this final kind of provocative thought to chew on. Whether you're optimizing an application for a national database, designing a thumbnail for a massive global platform, or just structuring your own professional footprint, are you communicating exactly what the algorithm is looking for? Take a hard look at your own variables, understand the system's rules, and go optimize your path to being selected. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.